Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, fuck everybody, just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flaws, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause of sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Well, hello. I know we've been talking about doing an afternoon live on the Bullhorn Betty channel, and I decided I was going to set it up 6:30. I did a lot of research over the last couple days, and I was actually going to prepare a video, and I'm like, this video is going to take me so long to put together. It's going to be easier for me to do a live. And then I got notification that Bryan they're seeking the death penalty. And I'm like, oh crap, they must have dropped some documents. It's Monday. It's after 2, right? It's after 2. So I go on to the Idaho website to see what documents are dropped. And I realize there are some documents that are dropped. And so I'm like, okay, well, I might as well just go ahead and go live. You know, we had already set it up. I'm just going to go live an hour and a half early, which kind of sucks because I just let Twitter know that, hey, we're going to have this wonderful intellectual conversation at 6:30. Come on over. And we're probably going to be done. So I'm going to have to go and delete that commentary. So let's just get started on what's new in the whole Bryan Kohberger, what documents just dropped and what do they mean? I've read them, not a whole lot here. We've already gone over just about every single document up to this point. And then we had all the orders. So I think the last one was the order shortening the time. No, I don't think it was that. I think it was the order granting the motion to take judicial notice. Now we have a motion to temporary seal, an order to file, and an order to shorten time, and then a notice pursuant to Idaho Code 18-4004A. And so we'll just go over, I'm not going to go over all the documents. I'm just going to go over a few that I think you're going to want to see. Let me get this banner down. one that I think you're going to want to see. Here's one, and this is the motion to temporary. There's this Exhibit A. And we heard about this Exhibit A. I want to say it was like, I don't think we talked about it. I mean, today's only Monday. So it was definitely last week that we heard of this motion to seal this Exhibit A. So I don't really know what Exhibit A really has to do with, but this is the newest filing today. And it's basically saying the state of Idaho, so that's the prosecution, it respectfully moves the court pursuant to Administrative Rule 32G1, Idaho Rule 6, Idaho Code 191112, and Section 74124 for a temporary order, for the sealing of Exhibit A attached to the order for preparation and release of the transcript and records of the grand jury proceeding. Okay, so it's related to the grand jury proceeding. And, as we know, that is not something that we're entitled to as a public at this moment. And the only people that are entitled to that at this moment would be the prosecution as well as the defense. But the defense is only entitled to so much of that. They're not entitled to all of it. So they're just going in and saying that the reasons for this, the need for confidentiality, is because it interferes with the enforcement proceedings. It deprives a person of a right to a fair trial or an impartial adjudication, constitute an unwanted invasion of personal privacy, disclose. So it's just the boilerplate stuff that they state. But with the grand jury material, I do believe that, that should not be out. It should definitely be under seal. And here is the order to file the defense counsel. So if we remember, this is another, it's a game that the defense is basically playing. There's two fronts that they're fighting on right now. One, in my opinion, is this grand jury testimony, our grand jury, how they selected the jurors. And I don't believe that she's going to be successful in challenging it. But if she does get a stay of the proceedings, she won. Whether she wins that, which I don't think they're going to be able to throw out the indictment in this matter. I really just don't. There's too much of a case here for them to throw out the indictment. I believe every bit of the process was followed as it was supposed to be followed. I think this is just a point where she can stay. This is an argument where she can get that additional time. So this is part of the criminal. This is part of the game, guys. This is part of the criminal process. And so they're doing it as they're supposed to and utilizing it as they're supposed to. And she is fighting very hard for her client, Bryan C. Kohberger. And so she's trying to stay this proceeding because of the way they selected the jury for the grand jury. Well, the judge has ordered her that she is now allowed to provide their first sworn statements of fact related to their motion for stay. So again, nothing major going on in the case, but just something that, part of the process. And we know that he is going to be listening to this stay. He's going to be hearing oral arguments on this stay. So it is possible that even though she's not successful with throwing out the indictment, she is maybe on her way to being successful at staying the proceedings until they at least hear the arguments related to the jury. But again, she has to come up with good cause. She has to have a really good legal argument for her to get this motion to stay. But if she has, under good cause, and she's not being unreasonable, the judge would have no other option but to allow, the stay of the case. But this, I think, is the most important right here. This is the notice pursuant to Idaho Code 18-4004A. And basically what this is saying is that the state plans on seeking the death penalty. And because of the nature of this particular document, I do believe it would be proper for us to read the entire document here online. And it says, comes now the state of Idaho by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney and hereby gives notice to the court, the defendant and his counsel pursuant to Idaho Code section 18-4004 4004A that as of this point in time, and based on the information known to the state to date, the following statutory aggravating circumstances pursuant to Idaho Code Section 19-2515 subsection 9 appears to exist in this case as to the crime of murder in the first degree as charged in count 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the indictment herein. Idaho Code 19-2515 subsection 9 subsection B. At the time the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. And or 2, Code Section 19-2515 subsection 9 subsection E. The murder was specifically heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, and or Idaho Code 19-2515 subsection 9 subsection F. By the murder or circumstances surrounding its commission, the defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life, and or Idaho Code Section 192515 subsection 9 subsection G. The murder was committed in a preparation of or attempted perpetration of or attempted perpetration, arson, rape, robbery, burglary, kidnapping, or mayhem, and the defendant intended a killing or acted with reckless indifference to human life, and or subsection 5 Idaho Code Section 19-2515 subsection 9 subsection I. The defendant, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the murder at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. Wow. Mind blown, right? I would anticipate that being accurate. We all believe, at least the majority of us, do believe that Bryan Kohberger was trying to be a serial killer. And many of us, not everybody, and not everybody in our chat, believes that he's committed crimes prior to this, maybe not to this gravity. And we further believe that he would have perpetuated this crime, that this was his first, if it was, and he was going to, if successful, do it again. We all believe that. Most of us do. I shouldn't say all, it's a broad brush, but most of us do. And so that number 5 is, wow. Let's read that again. Idaho Code Section 19-2515 Section 9, subsection 9, subsection I. The defendant, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the murder at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. The state gives this notice based on facts that it has not identified or been provided with any mitigating circumstances sufficient to prohibit the trier of fact from considering all penalties authorized by Idaho's state legislature, including the possibility of a capital sentence. Remember, they did give him an opportunity to provide his alibi, and the defense has been toying around and not wanting to proffer that alibi on behalf of Bryan Kohberger. Remember? Stating that they are still waiting on stuff, right? They're still waiting on information, and they're formulating his defense right now. If you were home in bed or at the grocery store or with a woman, why can't you proffer that alibi? You got phone records, but law enforcement has all those phone records. I'm not sure if that's going to corroborate his alibi. So it's crazy because they do acknowledge, the state gives this notice based on facts that is not identified or been provided with any mitigating circumstances sufficient to prohibit the triers of fact from considering all penalties. And they did give him the opportunity to provide his alibi, and to date, he still has not provided that alibi. So, in addition to them looking at this and including all possibilities of including the possibility of capital sentence, consequently considering all evidence currently known to the state is compelled to file this notice of intent to seek the death penalty. The state will continue to review additional information as it is received and reserves its statutory right to amend or withdraw this notice. So they're only required to submit this notice within so many days of that arraignment, where he pled, or, because they didn't do the pretrial conference. He was indicted. He had an arraignment. He stood in silent, and now they're challenging the indictment. And so the state, had so many days from that point to decide whether or not it was going to seek the death penalty. And like they said, they can amend or withdraw this notice at any time, within its statutory right to do so. So they are seeking the death penalty, but we have to go back, in my opinion. I know this is kind of off topic. This is not really what we're here for. This just happened to pop up right as we were, we went live many way earlier than we were anticipating, an hour and a half to be exact. But again, I was not expecting this to come in. I knew it was going to be coming in any day now, but for whatever reason, just wasn't expecting it today. And when I saw that notification that they were seeking the death penalty, I knew that new documents had dropped, and I went and checked, and sure enough, new documents have dropped. I think this is the right decision for the state, but we have to remember, which is what I was just getting to. We have to remember that they've only, and this was something, and just props, I don't know if anybody other than Sleuthy Goosey before her stated it, but I saw it personally on Sleuthy Goosey's tweet when she was talking about the death penalty and the cases that are in Idaho right now, and how many people have actually been sentenced to death in Idaho. And I think it was like 29 people in like 159 years. That's a good thing and a bad thing. That shows you, in my opinion, that the state really doesn't want to have to sentence people to these types of sentences. They really give them all the time and benefit in the world to change, to fight and to try to overturn some of those sentences. The other thing is, it gives me, a little bit of pause, a little bit of concern, so to speak, when you hear that only 29 people in 159 years have met the sentence of death, for their crime. And I got to think that there has to be some really nasty people, just like everywhere. Not that I'm picking on Idaho. I mean, Florida, good Lord, we have some monsters here, right? But I have to think that there was some people that were deserving of that sentence that just didn't happen for whatever reason. So it kind of concerns me a little bit, does Idaho have what it takes to keep their eye on, the target here, the mission, so to speak, and taking, doing whatever the courts and ultimately decide, the jury ultimately decides in this matter. Because if this is their decision and this heinous nature of this crime, it just makes you, I'm concerned that the day will never come that they truly get the justice that they should have. And it seems at least the majority of the victims' families are on board with the death penalty, and the state of Idaho selecting that as a possible sentence for Bryan Kohberger. So now we're going to get on to just kind of leaving the new documents behind. Oh, did I just drop? Hold on. I think I just dropped one of the documents I needed up there. Did I? I did not. Okay, good. That's good to know. Let's see what this is. Okay. Sorry, guys. I got to make sure I'm deleting the right ones because I had all this in order of how we were going to go through this next tidbit of information. As many of you know, we're going to kind of switch gears here and talk about what this whole live was originally set up for to begin with. And we have been on, at least for the last week and a half, kind of this DNA and well, I shouldn't say the DNA. Last week, we were kind of going over still the cameras, still the non-dissemination order, you know, still complaining about, you know, the injustice of the press and whatnot. And, you know, so it's like we talked about this morning on our on my live, you know, how I'm seeing how this judge is playing this, and the carrot he's dangling in front of everyone, which is the cameras in the courtroom. So he's reserving his ruling on the cameras in the courtroom while denying all of the pushback on his non-dissemination order and revised the non-dissemination order, basically saying he's fulfilled both Shannon Gray and the media coalition's need, and now this non-dissemination order is up to snuff and you know, bodes with the law now, right? So I'm not going to weigh in on that just on this particular live, but I don't necessarily agree with that. But the carrot stick that they're dangling is, if it's challenged, the judge is most likely going to rule that no cameras can be in the courtroom. I can already foresee this. I see how it's being set up now, and it's almost like it's a tactic. It's a lawful tactic, but it sure feels like a little bit of blackmail going on over here. You know, a little bit of extortion from the courts, lawful extortion of the courts, right? So, I mean, having fun with it a little bit, but you know, it's a serious matter, and trying to balance the rights of the accused with the rights of the public is very hard to do. But I think JLR brought up a valid point today in one of his, I can't remember which one I heard, but it was basically, maybe it was something I was reading on Twitter. No, I think it was a live that he did. I don't remember, but I was watching something, and he was talking about the amount of money that they're spending on this. At the time a murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. Yeah, Lindsay, let me star that, and Lindsay, I'll get back to that in just a second. Let me just star that. Oh, I starred the wrong one. Let me star that, and I'll get back to that in just a second. I don't know how quite to answer that just yet, because we're going to have to go back to the document, and I've already removed the document. So just bear with me and sit tight, and we will go back. I'll circle back to that, and we'll hopefully get that answered. Where was I at before that? But anyways, so I can't remember where I was kind of going with this, but he was basically denying the Associated Press's motion and order denying Shannon Gray's motion, but he revised the amended non-dissemination order, but reserved ruling on the cameras dangling of the carrot, right? So I really believe that this is going to be kind of, you know, how this judge is going to play it. Now, I'm curious as whether or not Shannon Gray or the Associated Press are going to challenge this new non-dissemination order. That's I don't know how far either one want to push this. I still think they have valid legal arguments, primarily Shannon Gray, in my opinion. Okay. I mean, we can, you know, the Associated Press, of course, they have rights. You know, they have freedom of press. They can go and investigate and get information. There's going to have to be some kind of blockade of information coming from this case. We all know that, but we want it to be reasonable and fair. But Shannon Gray, the reason why I think he has the most, you know, meat on the bone in his argument is because he is hired by the Gonzalez family to represent them. And part of that representation is being the talking piece for the family. And you're literally preventing the Gonzalez family from having proper, lawful, and legal representation when you've been put on notice that they plan on suing you. To me, that seems really intentional. It seems really unlawful and not in the spirit of the law. And quite frankly, in my opinion, in bad faith. And I have to agree and have agreed with Shannon Gray, them, the courts, the prosecuting, everybody just wanting to shut the family up. But what they're trying to do is force the Gonzalez family into almost a legal quagmire because what they're trying to do is force the Gonzalez to basically represent themselves when they have representation. But if they make those mistakes, that they hired their legal representation to speak for them, so those mistakes didn't get made, what they're going to end up doing is the state's going to end up using those mistakes against them in any kind of civil matter that the Gonzalez have. It is a crapshoot right now. And this is why I'm paying very close attention to what this judge is doing, is because I don't like the smell of this case coming out the gate. I just don't. I really don't, for those reasons that I've listed. Because I'm seeing how this judge behaves in his practice. I'm watching every move he makes. I'm listening to him intently. I'm seeing how he's ruling on these matters. And, I don't, and it has nothing. I know people are going to want to say, oh, it's because she just wants these orders lifted. Listen, like, my job goes on whether this order is lifted or not, whether we have cameras in the courtroom or not. It makes no consequence to Bullhorn Betty. We're going to be there in person. I'm not worried about sitting here getting that content. We're going to be there in person. So it's not about that. It's about what's right and what's wrong. And I'm feeling the burn for the media and Shannon, right? Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking there's no way he could be classified under 6.2 or 6.3 or whatever that professional regulation code was for public, publicity, trial publicity and stuff like that. Shannon Gray's an attorney. He's going to handle himself ethically. He has a right to represent his clients as he deems fit. And this court is stepping all over that right, and I don't like it. That's why I have a problem with it, not because it's preventing me from I can have conversations with whoever I want. It doesn't affect Bullhorn Betty at all. Let me just get that clear right now. It doesn't affect me one way or another, right? So I'm starting to look into this, and I've done a massive amount of research. I'm just going to pop this up, and then I'm going to take it down because I have to set it up a different way. Well, actually, I got a video, so I probably will have to set it up a different way at some point. But as you can see, you see all these tabs up here. Like this is all the research that I did, and it all started out with a section. Is it this one? Is this the protective order? It all started out with this document right here. In this next piece that we're going to be discussing. And when we get down to it, it came to this statement right here on page 3. Right here. It's not going to let me highlight it. But it says right here, it remains unclear what the police first relied on in focusing their investigation on Mr. Kohberger. Because right now they're having a fight with the state on this investigative genetic genealogy information related to the DNA. We're now learning all the Brady and Giglio issues with this case related to that investigated genetic genealogy testing that they did. So, which is what they call IgG. And so here, we're trying to figure out what information did law enforcement rely on first. That is the crux of this. Now, in this document, they said it doesn't really matter whether they relied on this or relied on that first, but it does. Because if they're saying that they need this genealogy because this genealogy is somehow the reason that tipped law enforcement off to look at Bryan Kohberger, they're making that argument. The state is saying, wait a minute, no, we didn't do anything. This is all done in public record. The family tree was put together by public record. We didn't do any additional testing. We didn't do any kind of forensics on this. We just sent the profile over to this thing, and we built a family tree based on the profile. And so I got to say, there's a comical, we're going to have to go through this as well. There's a comical, maybe it is this one. Yes, it was this one. It's the one we're looking at here. This was actually a kind of a comical read. We'll go into like the comedy aspect of this later down in the segment. But I've got to say this was pretty interesting. But again, we're only focusing in on one statement in this document, and it says it remains unclear what they first relied on. So I started building the timeline on what they first relied on. And so before I could figure that timeline out, I had to ask myself, what was it that they first? There's only three possibilities for me that could have happened. It was either the car, the IgG, or that investigative genetic genealogy, or just dumb luck. I did say that, just dumb luck, right? Just dumb luck. And there's going to be a reason why I say just dumb luck, and we're going to review that in just a second. So I start looking at everything and start putting it in chronological order. And of course, I'm basing it off this document that you see. But we're going to go to page 2 of this document and see if we can garner any information related to a timeline that's going to help us decide, what came first, the car or the genealogy testing, right? The chicken or the egg, right? That's where we're at today. Or is it the chicken or the egg, right? Which happened first? And so when I was reading this on page 2, down at the bottom, it states right here in this area that one area of investigation had to do with a white sedan seen on camera located at 1112 King Road. First glimpsed by officers on what date? November 18th. This is only 5 days after the brutal killing in that home. Now, why did they say 1112 King Road? Because if you look at it, they're talking about a camera. So now we know what property had the camera that captured that white sedan that early morning hour of November 13th. It was the house with the house number 1112 King Road. But by November 25th, police believe that the car was a white Elantra. So you see how it went from a white sedan on November 18th to the white Elantra on November 25th. Now, if we look at the same information, we just go up just a little, we realize that by December 17th, the lab analysis were aware of 2 additional DNAs. Where was it? No, that's not it. Hold on. Let me find it. There it is. It's up just a little bit more. On November 20th, the Idaho State Lab in Meridian, Idaho, located DNA on the button of the sheath and performed STR analysis that led nowhere when ran in CODIS. So that is one of the requirements that they are required to go through before they're allowed under Idaho rules to use this genetic genealogy testing. They have to put the sampling in CODIS first, and CODIS must not have made a hit. That is the only time when they can move to the genealogy testing according to the rules from the state of Idaho. And I've read the rules. We've actually discussed them, I think, last week, either Thursday or Friday, going over the rules of the state of Idaho. So now we know, let's just recap. So now we know that they got the glimpse of the white sedan on November 18th, and they got the profile from the snap of the sheath on the 20th. So right there off the gate, they have the white sedan. It hasn't been confirmed as the Elantra yet. That's not done until 5 days after the Idaho State Lab finds the DNA on the sheath, and that was on November 25th. Also on November 25th, in accordance to the Brett Payne affidavit, oops. Okay, we do have it up here. Okay. In accordance to the Brett Payne affidavit, and this is, oh crap. I've got it. Okay, here it is. I did flag it. I just didn't flag it on my piece of paper here with my notes. So 7. So then we learn that right here in this area, law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect vehicle 1 to forensic examiners with the Federal Bureau of Investigations that regularly utilize surveillance footage to identify the year, make, and model of the unknown vehicle that is observed by one or more cameras during the commission of criminal offenses. The forensic examiners has approximately 35 years of law enforcement experience. Oh, okay, so it's the next few paragraphs. Law enforcement experience, where was I? With 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles and uses a database that gives him visual clues of vehicles across the state. After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensic examiner initially believed the suspect vehicle 1 was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Upon further review, he indicated it could be 2011 to 2016. So we had the change in the Elantra at that time. And then when we go to page 9, of this same report, the Brett Payne affidavit, we learn that on November 25th, Moscow Police Department basically put out this bolo for their local law enforcement agencies, including Wazoo, to be on the lookout for this Hyundai Elantra, this white Hyundai Elantra. So this Officer Daniel decides to run a query on white Elantras that are associated with Wazoo, and he gets a hit for Bryan Kohberger's name. And that was on the 29th, November 29th. So let's recap what we learned. We learned on the 18th, they got the glimpse of the white sedan. On the 20th, they located the DNA. On the 25th, they determined the car was a white Elantra. Same day on the 25th, they asked local area law enforcement to be on the lookout for this white Elantra. A query was done, and on November 29th, they located Bryan Kohberger's car with Pennsylvania plates. Now, there's a big gap from November 29th, 2022 to 12/28/2022 when they were able to make the DNA match to Bryan Kohberger's father. And then they subsequently made the arrest warrant. He was arrested on December 30th. At that point, they got a buccal swab and ended up confirming the DNA to be matched to him to almost 6 quadrillion. So when you're looking at all of this, and what I find very interesting, and it comes back to the original motion for protective order. The original motion for protective order by Bill Thompson. And he's trying to keep this genealogy, this genetic genealogy, out of the court hearing. Well, if the major question here is whether or not the car came first, the DNA came first, or was it dumb luck? I look all over this document for motion for protective order. Here's one of the things that I find out. How extremely vague it is. It seems like, it's a big, thick document. Let me put this up on it's a thick document here that I hold in my hand. It's a pretty darn thick document, the motion for protective order. And how could a document this thick be so vague? It has no dates of specificity listed in this at all. So guess what? We literally, out of all the documents, I went through everything trying to review it. Now, I could have missed something, and God help me if I did, right? But I have not found a document yet that specifies the date that they ran that genealogy test. The date that they ran that genealogy test, or when their family tree was constructed, and when Bryan Kohberger's name was proffered from that family tree or a lineage to him somehow. Those are the things, no dates whatsoever. So when I'm asked whether or not, when was this genealogy test taken in conjunction with the determination of the white Hyundai, I don't know, because they're not putting that in any of their documents. We have no timeline for the DNA. That's what I found out. We have no timeline for the DNA. Now we're going back. So we're talking about the car. I believe the car was found first before the DNA was. That's just based upon what I'm reading, it sounds like they were on to Bryan Kohberger by actually the white Elantra. And it sounds like once they identified the white Elantra and the fact that it was very consistent to what they were looking for, I think that's when they started doing the genealogy testing to see if there's really any connection genetically wise to that sampling from the button. And so I do kind of believe that it's both, that they did check this genealogy to see if it was a match to this no-name person. I think they were trying to exclude this dude. And then he wasn't excluded. So what's the dumb luck aspect of it? What's the dumb luck aspect of all this, right? I'm about to show you. Let me turn this. I'm going to have to take this, stop my screen share, because we're going to have to go over to the story. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I remember that. So give me just a second. I'm loading it now. Somebody calling? Oh. My alarm telling me it's time to start our live. Oops. I jumped the gun. What can I say? Put this up. So this is the dumb luck I'm talking about. Let's just listen to this. Maybe hold on. Let me just get to the part where I need to be. All right. I think it's here. Let's see. Right here.
That they felt safe. They felt secure. They are planning on coming back after winter break as well for the next semester, barring anything crazy happening in this case. There was one student I talked to who said that some of her friends will not be coming back next semester, but everyone I talked to on the ground said that they are feeling safe.
Give it just a second.
About over
the police headquarters. Have you noticed, any activity, people coming and going, any police officials? Still a lot of media around there?
Andrew, been here for about half an hour. It's been pretty quiet here so far. A couple people trickling in and out of the department, but nothing really noteworthy in terms of, police cars coming or going or anything abnormal happening.
All right, Jake Karalexis there live for us in Moscow, Idaho, with the latest on this story, and so many are hoping for a break.
Okay, it's
in
coming
this
up
case.
now.
Jake, thanks so much. We'll talk again. Okay, in the meantime, we do want to let you see some of those new photos and videos obtained by Fox News Digital. And of course, we're going to put them up here on the screen. Okay, more from the investigation now into those slain University of Idaho students. Those images you just saw at the top of Jake's report were obtained exclusively by Fox News Digital. The cell phone photo of a computer screen showing a white car on a highway in Moscow, Idaho. The clerk who reviewed the security footage said it drove by around 3:45 in the morning. There you see the photo of the timestamp. You did just see that. Detectives collected 8 hours of surveillance video from this gas station.
Remember that? Remember hearing about this? Well, unfortunately, it sounds like it might be dumb luck. I'm not lying. Dumb luck. Because according to this very affidavit that we were reading, on the bottom here, I'm not lying. One area of, and it comes down here. We'll start right here where it says a report. A report from analysis. So this is, I'll read the whole thing. A report from an analysis for the FBI dated March 21, 2023 shows the analysis heavily relied on a video of a car heading in the wrong direction at the wrong time on Ridge Road. So I keep wondering, is this dumb luck? Did they just happen to stumble across this white Elantra? Right? Did they happen to stumble across this white Elantra that they were looking at this store? Or is this just something the defense heard us talking about on social media and in the media that they tried to hone in on this? Because we just learned earlier in this that they actually saw the camera, the car from the camera at 112 King Road. So did they rely heavily on that video? I'm not sure, because they knew early on in this investigation, before we knew, that the timeline was off, that the car description was off. So when we're reading these pleadings from the state in their arguments, it kind of feels like they're playing this DNA game. They would have found Bryan Kohberger either way, and they're trying, in my opinion, they're trying to get this, which, you know, we could kind of foresee this, right? I mean, let's not be naive here, that they're trying to throw out the DNA evidence. They're trying to find a way to throw this DNA evidence out. And I think the way that they're trying to do it is through this Brady avenue, this Brady and Giglio avenue, saying, hey, you know, they didn't give us this insequential, you know, genetic testing. I mean, they had the car, they had already identified, I mean, they identified Bryan Kohberger's name on November 29th. November 29th is when Bryan's name was first brought, according to everything that we're reading as fact from the court record. It appears that his name was brought to law enforcement, brought to light in the early morning hours of November 29th. And yes, I mean early morning hours, like just a few minutes past midnight is when that officer located Bryan Kohberger's white Elantra with the Pennsylvania plates on the outside of his apartment. So I think that we've got two fronts going on here in this trial strategy that Bryan Kohberger's defense team is using. And one of those strategies is the delays tactic, which we knew. I've been informing the people here on the Bullhorn Betty channel for several months, since I want to say January or February, ever since we knew of Bryan, that at some point the defense is going to start some delay tactics. And we started seeing our first delay tactic. Well, with the discovery, that's a typical standard operating type of, you know, help to delay, you know, motions for compel, always having a motion for compel on the case. So the case is always needing to be moved forward, always needing something. So these are tactics that you know, lawyers use to help buy time in a case. And now she's challenging the indictment to buy additional time in the case by way of a stay, motion for stay, which may or may not be granted depending on if she gives or provides a good legal argument and with good cause. With a good legal argument and good cause, she will get the stay. The judge will ultimately grant that stay. If she does not have a good legal argument, he will deny that request. But we're learning today there's a lot here. There is a lot here with this DNA, but we are kind of foreseeing their strategy. As each time they move the ball forward, they have to expose their hand a little bit more. And we're grabbing that. Yeah, Allie, delay, deny DNA. I like that. Yes, exactly like that. Exactly like that. So this it's pretty interesting because you're starting to see it formulate here. You know, we still don't have an alibi for him. You know, they're fighting hard. They're fighting really hard in attacking this DNA, and they're attacking it with everything they have. So I'm very interested. Does the DNA stay or does it go, right? But there's sharks definitely swirling this water around the DNA. The sharks are swirling. The sharks are swirling. So I'm going to do something a little different today. We haven't done it in a really long time, but it's because we're in the afternoon hours and I miss my people. And so we have the opportunity to open up the phone lines or pull a panel. I am going to open up the panel and see if anybody would like to join me to discuss this DNA, to discuss, you know, this trial strategy that is starting to develop for the defense every time they have to file a pleading, it's showing their hand a little bit more. And likewise for the defense, for the state, because they're having to explain. They're having to explain themselves. So we're really starting to see a little more of this case making its way to light. But just to let you know, like I went through this entire thing because I wanted to know what came first, the car or the genetic genealogy testing. And I went through the press releases, and this is what I found out, believe it or not. And it was cool. I wasn't expecting to find this either, okay? We know, based upon the documents that we've been reading, we didn't know this back in the day, but we definitely know as of today with this last filing that they knew of the car on November 18th because it was on camera at one of the houses that were neighboring the 1122 King Road property. So we know that they had the car in sight. And we know that they did the investigative genealogy testing. When you put all this together, it looks like, you know, and they even said in this document, which again, I want to read some, before I open this up, I want to read some comical entries on this document. This was done, and it's funny because when I was reading this and I was listening to how pompous and arrogant some of this stuff was, I flipped back to the last page to see if this was Jay's, because it's almost funny. Like I've read so many documents now that I actually know which ones are written by Anne and which ones are written by Jay, just by how they're written. And here's a prime example of what I mean by that. So oh, and here's the other part for the dumb luck. It says, additionally, the defense is to guess whether the state focused in its investigation on Mr. Kohberger via a bizarre complex DNA tree experiment or through its faulty identification of the vehicle involved in this case, i.e., was it dumb luck, right? That's what I wrote there. Was it dumb luck? And so what else did he write in here? That was just, oh, and then now he's trying to also say, in addition to all of this other stuff, he's actually accusing law enforcement of framing Bryan Kohberger. Listen to this. It says, perhaps most puzzling is the state's argument that while Rule 16b-5 requires them to turn over all results or reports from scientific investigation, it does not require the state to disclose what law enforcement does with its results or reports. I need to stop. It says, first of all, that sounds like an admission, which I didn't think it sounded like an admission, but that's the way that the defense is going to stretch it. It sounds like an admission for information on how the IGG was carried out should be disclosed. Second, what law enforcement does with its results is covered by 16b-6, a statement of prosecution witnesses. Frankly, the fact that members of the FBI are so concerned about permitting Mr. Kohberger to know what they were up to with what was supposedly his DNA does not give one the impression that there is nothing to see here, as the state seems to imply. Like, he's getting so snarky. Thank you, Jennifer. God bless you. He's getting so snarky in this, but that wasn't the funniest. I think the funniest statement was this one. And it says, Mr. Kohberger has reasons to be extremely suspicious of the IGG used in this case. Rather than seeking it as some sort of complex tree building that led to him, it appears far more like a lineup where the government was already aware of who they wanted to target, rather than have an investigation done by someone blind to the fact the FBI chose to do it themselves. This is akin to the police pulling Mr. Kohberger and his 5 cousins off the street and pointing it at him. That is definitely a cocky response that could not be derived by no other than somebody with testosterone. Let's be honest. I was reading this, and I and this is a serious case, a case that you know, we've kind of bonded with some of the victims here. I know me personally, I've bonded with Kaylee and Maddie's story more so than anything, more so than the murder. Just their story, their friendship has really resonated with me. So, you know, you can just tell the distinction in the way that they're writing. Either way, I'm going to open up this. Is there anything else that I needed to go over? We did that. We did that. We did that. I think we're good. I think I'm good. So this is how we're going to do the whole, if you want to come up and be part of the conversation here on the platform, I'm going to drop the link and invite you guys in, but you're required to show your photo behind the camera. How that works, if you don't want to be, if you don't mind your face being up here like mine is, that's fine too. But when you're behind the camera, before I bring you up on panel, I need to see your face. And until we get a good group, I probably won't bring anybody up on panel where you can see them. You're just going to be able to hear them. And when we get a group of people that I like and trust, then I'll probably just go ahead and pull them all up on panel. So let's see here. There we go. The mods want to pop it down. It's been a while since we've done a panel. You know, we've done the phones, and I know this is an afternoon. I don't usually do lives in the afternoon or this late in the afternoon. So I think we're doing, we have a great turnout. We already have 189 people in the chat. So there is the StreamYard link. Again, you'll need to show your face behind the scenes when you come up. There's Mab. Hello there, my friend.
How are you?
Well, I was kind of hoping that the roof would be finished today, and I got up this morning, walked the dog, moved the car, and nothing.
No roof, huh?
Nope, it's about, I don't know, 80% done.
Is it a metal roof or
Yes.
asphalt?
I do not want to go with another rollout roof. Those rollout roofs, they just don't last. They're like 10 years, you know, and they're like, if the rollout was going to cost me $10,000 or the metal was going to cost me $14,000. I went for the metal.
I just spent $36,400 on a roof.
You're over there, and you gotta buy to live, right? You're in California, Florida, mercy.
Well, it's a 1-bedroom, and I'm getting $3,000 a month for it.
I bet.
And a studio, I'm getting $1,200, so $4,200. So it's a year, and it'll be paid off in a year, and it's a 40-year roof.
Yeah.
So I'll be 100 by the time the roof goes bad again.
You're pretty analytical. What do you make of all this Bryan Kohberger stuff? I mean, it just seems to me that we know that they're going to try to throw out the DNA evidence. We know that. But to attach.
Well, you look at it this way. That 8-hour difference between when Dylan saw the guy with the bushy eyebrows and when somebody made the 911 call, that was a great opportunity for somebody to plant something, even if they were just setting up Kohberger.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about some glove that was found days later in the backyard that had male DNA. I don't know who that is. And there was a couple other DNA sources, if I recall, that haven't been identified. But I would imagine there's DNA all the hell over that house.
Well, in the report, they said, I was a little confused this morning, but I went back and reread the reports, and it basically said that there were a couple other or a few other unidentified DNA profiles in that house. They've never identified them.
Yeah, and then the slow drip of information from the prosecution. Sorry, I can't talk that well. My lip is coming back, but it's making it more difficult to talk. What was I going to say?
I know, I hate problems. I got to go back and get some more work done.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, how many of those kids traipsed through that crime scene, getting rid of drugs or whatever the hell they were doing from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock?
Right.
Because we know through the rumor mill that sorority kids were over there around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And there were a bunch of kids there by the time the cops got there. So, yeah, the footprint outside of Dylan's house, that could have been one of those kids.
Yeah. There's a lot of
the
things.
defense,
even that glove. That glove that they said had one of the unidentified male. That was on the way. That was way out there. I mean, granted, I guess it could have been dropped as somebody was fleeing the scene. But I remember Chris McDonough finding it because he was running the video, and he was the one that found that glove on the perimeter of the scene, and it looked almost like a law enforcement glove as opposed to.
Yeah. It was a week later, right? Or more?
Something like, I think it was found like on the 20th. It wasn't that many days. It was right before Olivia and I got into town there.
Somewhere around the 20th.
Yeah, I think so.
But the defense is going to have a field day with that time lapse.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know what Bethany saw, if anything. We don't know the drug angle, because we know, I mean, it was a known drug house.
I don't know.
Allegedly.
I'd be comfortable with party house, but I don't know if.
Well, where you have parties, you have drugs.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
somebody's always
that
there
house be
supplying
the drug
drugs.
House, though. I mean, you would have one person that might have the goods, but I don't know if I'd classify that as the drug house. Like when I was partying, my house was the drug house. I mean,
yeah, mine too.
So it's I know the difference between a drug house and a party house. Yeah, even a party house has drugs, but
a party house always has somebody there supplying the goods.
Yeah,
and often it is somebody who lives there. I mean, what a perfect way to make money. You have parties all the time. You're there. You got the goods, and you're making bank.
Mm-hmm.
Then you throw in Demetrius Robinson and Emily, whoever the hell, Emma Bailey.
Yeah.
All that shady stuff.
Right, but they still, I mean, outside of that one video, I mean, yeah, it kind of looks like Emma Bailey, but it's not. I mean, to me, that's not confirmed. I can't corroborate that.
I think it is with the head coming out of the party. She had the head. Yeah. Nobody else I've ever seen on the video has that head scarf.
Yeah,
and her and Demetrius are busted for supplying fentanyl and causing an overdose.
Yeah, but it wasn't even in this. Was it in the state of Idaho that happened?
No, in Washington, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they're not bad people, and I'm not saying they probably didn't go over to that house at least once or twice, but I'm not sure. I still, I guess it's because I believe it's Bryan Kohberger, that no other theory in my mind is going to make sense because I'm so.
Yeah, because the media has already hung this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying the chances of Ann Taylor introducing reasonable doubt are high.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's got several avenues. I mean, think about it. It's not just the DNA or this genealogy. It's not the possibility of this being a party or drug house. But you also have the situation. Where was I going with this?
You're just like me.
Well, it's later in the day, and I've been going through. But
later in life.
Yeah. Well, what were you just saying? You just said something that I was getting to, and I can't.
The drug house.
Yeah. No, it was something else I was getting at. I'll think of it in a second. My brain will pop back on. I have literally just been sitting here literally studying and reading and going back. I mean, I've got all these things up because I was looking to find out when. Oh, this is the point I was going to make. Is law enforcement knew of, we've learned from these affidavits that law enforcement knew of this white sedan on November 18th. And they determined the white sedan being a white Elantra on November 25th internally. Now we
When
didn't.
When did the security guy at Washington State identify that Elantra as Kohberger's?
In the early morning hours of the 29th, like right just a little after midnight, it was when he went and looked at that car personally.
So right before they took off?
He didn't take off. He didn't take off for another 10 days after that. About another week he took off. He ended up taking off from a week after his car was identified that early morning hours. And we know that Bryan Kohberger is up at odd hours. I wonder if he saw that officer looking at his car.
It could be.
That night, because with him having that quick turnaround time to head home, it's possible. It's possible he started getting nervous.
And then the friend that he hung out with sometimes had invited him to the pool party. Right after the murders, he came to that guy and said, "Hey, what do you think about these murders? They don't have a suspect. What would you do if, how would you get got into it."
Right. Weird conversations.
Early. And I do believe Papa Roger was him.
I do too. Yeah. Without a doubt. And
it looks just like him, the thumbnail or whatever.
Yeah, and I didn't realize. I thought it was just something that somebody took off the internet and put up there. But Jennifer Coffendoffer made almost an identical one with her face. Obviously, it was her face, not his. And that's when I realized that it probably was him. If she could make that, he made it.
It looks an awful lot like him.
Yeah, absolutely. But we found out, they started letting us know, the public know, about this white Elantra. The first time we heard about it was December 7th. So
that was just a snapshot of a video.
Yeah.
And there's some people out there.
No, they didn't give us the video on the 7th. This video didn't come out until the 13th. So almost a week after the notification that we were looking for a white Elantra. When the white Elantra was brought up, it was just basically there was no real press release with it. It was just the car. It was December 7th.
Hold on a second. I'm going to grab another vape.
Okay. Yeah, this was all that. Let me pull this up here. This was the post for December 7th. That was it. Like we heard a press release, and they give us these stock photos. This was the press release off this site right here.
Those cars look pretty different to me.
Yeah, and they were supposedly the same.
Go back to that picture.
Yeah, one is.
Those are different. Look at the sweep of look at the swept front of the bottom one, and the chunkiness of the top one.
Yeah, well, that might also be.
It could be a perspective.
Yeah, well, 2011, I'm sure there's some small modifications to a 2013 because that's what they were peddling at this time.
To me, the bottom one looks longer than the top one.
Yeah, but that also could be the way that the photo was taken, because this looks like it was a stock photo from the company. And the other one looks like a photo from maybe an employee in the parking lot.
Right.
So, but that's, it's quite interesting. So I do believe no matter what, and I kind of agree with a little bit of what Jay was saying in his comical, pleading, is that it seems like that they were using this genealogy testing to confirm. It almost sounds like to confirm it was Bryan Kohberger, or that they can make the leap to this student at Washington.
Yeah, because they already tied it to him with the car.
Right. Earlier on. So I do believe part of their statement, but I don't think it's justification to throw out the DNA, because they would have came up to the DNA.
What do you think about this? Everybody's talking about touch DNA being somehow different than any other kind of DNA. DNA is DNA.
That's kind of how I feel about it too, because it doesn't matter if it's touch DNA, transfer DNA. This is a little bit different, because I really believe if this was transfer DNA of any kind, there would have been more DNA than just a small molecule on the button of the sheet. That sounds, when you only find that little bit of DNA on it, it sounds like that sheath was cleaned and wiped down to make sure there was nothing on it.
Yeah, before he put gloves on, perhaps. But did he leave that as a calling card? I mean, no murderer in his right mind is going to leave behind the sheath right next to one of the victims. That's crazy.
And everybody keeps thinking that it was that was unintentionally left there, but nobody's ever talked about the perspective of it intentionally being left there.
It was intentional, in my opinion.
I really do believe, because it was so clean. If it wasn't as clean as it was, I would say that it was accidentally left there. But that sheath, I mean, it traveled with him. And if we took the Dateline, story to be true, they're alleging that he purchased it in Pennsylvania. How in the world can he bring that knife from Pennsylvania to Washington? Again, if that's true, without any transfer DNA on that sheath or on anything, that it just doesn't make sense, because the way you know about skin cells and DNA, something should have transferred on that in months.
Well, he was a criminologist. He did study this stuff, and he knew how to clean stuff with bleach. I mean, he cleaned his car afterwards. Well, that's pretty big tell right there. Him cleaning his car like that.
But we don't know that. That's a rumor, because we haven't heard it from law enforcement. We heard the car was clean, but it wasn't until the Dateline that anybody brought up bleach as the cleaning solution. And my question is, how do they know?
It may not have been bleach. It could have been something else. But they do have if you watch Duty Ron and his buddy, the MVAC is a device that is a vacuum that will vacuum up the car and then analyze what it vacuums up for DNA. And they can vacuum up skin cells off of seats and all that kind of thing.
What if they have to have that equipment at his school?
Well, they didn't have the MVAC at his school, but they were offered the MVAC. I don't know if they used it.
I'm wondering if, with the criminology and other courses, crime courses they taught at that school, I wonder if they did have something that he could have gone in. I mean, if he had a key card to the school and he had access to most areas except secured areas, he might have had to some equipment we don't know about, and maybe clean the car before he even left for PA.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, perhaps. I mean, we don't know.
Or he had, the full body Tyvek black suit on that he ditched somewhere, because he had to have been soaked with blood, and Dylan didn't mention anybody being soaked with blood. Of course, at night, blood and black would appear to be the same color. I mean, it would have been dripping off of him.
Yeah, and that brings me to another, and you just kind of dovetailed into another. This is a topic I was going to bring up tomorrow morning. We'll talk about it here, and I'll bring it up again tomorrow. There's no connection. It states in here that there's no connection between Mr. Kohberger and the victims. There is no explanation for a total lack of DNA evidence from the victims in Mr. Kohberger's apartment, office, home, or vehicle. And my notations here it says that's not necessarily true. There are several reasons that this would be the case, and I can think of several of them. Putting plastic on your car. Nobody knows what the inside of his car was like that night. We don't know if he covered his car with, painter's plastic. We don't know if he, drove home and stripped down and had another bag of clothes in the trunk.
I think he stripped down right outside the house and had trash bags to put the coveralls in and the gloves. Maybe he dropped a glove. Yeah. I don't know. But if I was going to plan something like that, premeditated, I would wear a full-on Tyvek suit with the hood, with the mask, with gloves.
But we know he didn't. We know he didn't, because according to Dylan's testimony that we heard, the limited portion of her testimony that we were able to read in the Brett Payne affidavit, he was wearing black clothing, a black mask that covered his nose and his mouth, a hooded sweatshirt that only showed the bushy eyebrows.
Was it a sweatshirt or was it a coverall?
No, it sounded like it was
Could
a hooded
she tell
sweatshirt.
at night? Could she tell the difference at night?
Yeah, here, I got the Brett Payne affidavit right here. I think I know, but just to be on the safe side, might as well check. Okay, so it's up here. Okay. Okay, here it is.
Okay.
It says, okay, here it is. It says DM stated she opened her door for a third time after she heard crying and saw a figure in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking toward her, described. So it doesn't even say that he had a hood.
Okay. I just pulled up a black Tyvek coverall right here.
Let me see it. Okay. Clad in black. That'd be clad in black.
Yep.
So it is possible. So, I mean, there are reasons for that, and not only that, but we're also taking the defense's statement that there's no connection. Ruby, can you show me your face? I just saw you back there. Sorry. All right, I'm pulling you up. Hey, Ruby, sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. I'm not dressed. I was floating on my raft, and so I showered off and came inside, and so I'm not dressed.
Oh, gotcha. No worries. I saw the top of your head. I'll let you in.
Here's the white version, Betty.
I can't barely see it with the white screen. It makes it difficult. Let me see if I can put you up on the screen. Hold on a second. There we go. There. Okay, yeah. It almost looks like one of those NASA suits. And show the black one again.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, hey, Lenny Bean. I didn't see you. It's been a while since you've been here. Nice to see you, honey.
Here's the black one.
So, yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Okay.
I mean, it's criminology. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Well, in the list of stuff that they took from his apartment, didn't they take a receipt from Walmart for some Dickies coveralls?
Yeah, they did. Hold on.
There you go.
Because as soon as I heard that they had a receipt for Dickies coveralls, and I pulled up, and they have a black pair of Dickies coveralls, because I did a video, and the thumbnail that I made, I morphed Bryan's head onto that Dickies coveralls outfit.
Yeah. I mean, if I was going to do, you would be stupid if you didn't have a Tyvek coverall or some kind of coverall if you went in there intending to do that.
Right. And I would think that he took those off as soon as he got outside, probably put them in a trash bag.
Or even before he went outside, he could have taken them off.
Yeah, I don't
think
so.
That's true.
Because according to this, hold on, let me go back to it. I think she watched him walk out the sliding glass door.
And I've always said that they should have dug up the drain pipe to the septic tank before they ran any water or anything to check for DNA in that, and they never did.
Yeah, and you know what? It's crazy because that is true. And they had like this water reclamation type of thing there as well, but that kind of tells you where the water's going. Because I saw it. Let's see here.
Because I can't imagine him trying to clean the inside of his car with bleach. That's just you would see
That was
bleach
always,
spots
I
everywhere.
remember bringing that up.
The
So,
outside, you might put a little bit of bleach in your water if you were hand washing a white car. I mean, I have a white car, and so I put a little bit of bleach in mine, but never the inside of it.
right. All right, I think I found it. So here it is, and this is from the Wazoo. I don't know where this is in the paperwork online, so I can't really show people, but I can show them the document that I'm referring to. It's this one right here. There's the number right there.
03419.
And it says Walmart receipts with 1 Dickies tag in closet on north wall of entryway, west side. So this is in his apartment. They also had a Marshall's receipt, closet on the north wall of entry, west side.
Do they itemize what those receipts were for?
It just says Walmart and Marshalls. It doesn't give us a whole lot of detail on this, unfortunately.
Definitely run his credit card and find out what it was. I mean,
Yeah, the credit card. But see,
Yeah.
people put cash too.
and he had multiple phones too. Who carries a burner phone?
Right.
You know,
And coming back to that phone, you know, we were looking at that, and we believe, and I said it was Bryan Kohberger's second phone, and it does make even more sense because when I go back to look, and he turned on his new phone on what was it, June 23rd or something like that in Wazoo. I can't remember the exact date, but he turned that phone on, and he turned it on late because they were looking for June 23rd to August 1st. It was a weird timeline for that particular.
This was before the murders, yeah.
No, it was after. It was after they arrested
after.
him. And it basically stated, golly.
How could he have a phone?
Oh, and it basically stated, it went off on August 12th. So it showed that he would have changed service on the 23rd. It would have been too late for him to cancel his July service. So the first time he could cancel that service would have been August 1st. And there explains the June 23rd to August 1st timeline. And request.
After the murders.
After the murder, the AT&T warrant. After the
We're
murder.
talking November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. That's 7 months.
No, they were asking for June 2022. So it was June 23rd, 2022 to August 1st, 2022. It was before the murders. But they were looking.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say. It was before the murders.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was before the. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were trying to say here. And so they also stated, and I think those were the only 2 receipts at the Washington State, but they did not explain anything related to the receipts, unfortunately. So that's all we have. And actually, I think there was one that I thought had more specificity. Like they found like black Dickies. That must have been the Pennsylvania warrant. They did find some black Dickies and a black sweatshirt that purportedly belongs to Bryan Kohberger in the Pennsylvania.
We couldn't have possibly kept them after the murders.
I don't think.
Oh, but that'd be stupid.
Those receipts might have been his change clothes.
Yeah.
You know, brand new clothes.
Yeah, put on after he
Yeah.
the coveralls off.
Right.
Yeah, but that Dickies tag, that's a dead giveaway.
I would trace his route back to
Right.
Wazoo and look for cadaver dogs to find that clothing. I would have if I was there, you know. Try to find the clothing because he had to have dumped them along the way.
Yeah, well, you remember he made that weird stop. He made that
like
weird
on a
stop
national forest or something.
Yeah, after he left, didn't he like not turn his phone on until like
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and read the Brett Payne.
And then the phone pinged again back at.
Huh?
Then the phone pinged again around 9 o'clock at the murder scene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the door was wide open.
Yeah. So that's what those were what we were hearing, is that that door was wide open. I always thought he went back into that house when he realized law enforcement wasn't there, and he realized the house was still quiet.
I would have went and got the knife sheath if I left it there accidentally.
Yeah.
But there were probably kids running around there by then.
Well, I don't think so. Not at 9 o'clock. Well, who knows? Who knows? We'll never get the real story.
One of the mothers of one of the frat kids' daughter, her daughter, was getting texts as early as between 8 and 8:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
That something had gone down at the King Roadhouse, and that the frat people knew about it, and that they were going over there. Ethan's brother, the frat people, were there in there cleaning up for drugs, or what could cause you not to call 911 for that long?
I get it, but you know, this whole drug fear, I just don't see Hunter Chapin just sitting around helping them clean up while his brother's laying.
Why wouldn't he call 911 when he found out?
Yeah.
We don't know who called 911.
Right, and I believe it was Hunter the neighbor, but it might have been Hunter the brother.
I think it was the brother came over there.
We definitely know the brother was there. His car was in the crime scene area. Both Ethan's car and Hunter's car were both taken, and Hunter could not remove his car because it was part of the crime scene because he parked so close to his brother's Jeep.
I think the defense has a lot of ammunition here.
They
because
do.
Of that time frame, and just that time frame, and the lack of, a lot of DNA, touch DNA on a knife sheath that doesn't have any blood on it, no other DNA on it.
That's odd too, don't you think? With it being so close to her leg and in between the leg or her body and the mattress, and she was just stabbed to death. And
it seems it was placed.
You know what? That might be why he left it. Maybe it got blood on it and he couldn't take it.
We don't know if it had blood on it.
I know, but we don't know.
We don't know a lot of stuff. We don't know what the prosecution has.
Exactly.
Because they're really dribbling it out to Ann Taylor. I mean, they've made several motions for discovery, and they're kind of not wanting to give them what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, discovery is discovery. You got to turn it all over.
But that would explain why he couldn't take that knife sheath with him, because it would have left DNA evidence, trace DNA in his vehicle. But if he changed,
and he knew he wasn't. He knew he wasn't in CODIS, Grafus. So that's why he was talking to that other guy about the 23andMe and genealogical. He had mentioned that to one of his acquaintances, reportedly, that he was discussing that catching criminals via the 23andMe type of genealogy. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is many of us don't know our entire family. So, like, there's many people I've never met in my family. When I did that ancestry DNA, I had first, second, third cousins I've never even laid eyes on, didn't know about, didn't meet, that also had done this genealogy testing as well. So even if you have no control over who puts their stuff in people that have been so far removed from your family, you don't even know they exist, but they still carry your DNA.
Yep.
You remember the story I told you the last time we talked about the case here in Arkansas, the Jane Doe girl, and they ended up, Papa was a Rolling Stone. They ended up finding brothers and sisters they didn't know they had.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's absolutely cray-cray.
Cray-cray.
Yep, cray-cray. But that's
I use that same term.
I was really, I'm trying to make heads or tails, and I've been keeping kind of to the more of the scientific conversation of the DNA on this related to this case. And it's like, you know, every day I'm digging in a little bit more. And then I was reading all this and I'm like, wait a minute. And I started thinking, and like, I literally got a whole list together and started writing this stuff down. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And what are they trying to say here? Because at the end of the day, if I'm trying to see if they're going to be able to throw out this DNA. And it definitely looks like that's the angle the defense is going. And of course we would anticipate it, but with them fighting, with the prosecution fighting about this genealogy, it seems like they're positioning themselves very, very well to have this DNA thrown out, is all I'm saying.
How are they going to get the DNA thrown out?
Well, if they can prove that they were entitled to that the state has failed to disclose it, I mean,
the state should disclose all. Didn't the prosecution retest that knife sheath?
They have the DNA, and they actually match the DNA to Bryan Kohberger. But if they're unwilling, see, the problem here that I'm seeing in this whole argument for this genealogy testing is that they know the FBI has already pulled the sample out of the system. So everything that they use to rely on for this family tree, it has been deleted. So
why would they do that?
So there's the problem.
Why would they delete it?
Because that's according to their standard operating procedures. According to the Justice Department, that is, they have a protocol in order to use this genealogy.
Don't get me started on the Justice Department.
Yeah, that's basically it. But they had, I think it's in this one.
You remember I told you this whole genealogy thing is very controversial.
This is the document that they're going off of, and according to this document, they have to pull profile. And this is the United States Department of Justice interim policy on forensic genetic genealogy, DNA analysis, and searching. So the law enforcement was following the right protocols. However, Ann Taylor's challenging them.
I don't think she'll win.
I don't either. I don't think she's going to win, but you know, you never know. You know, there's been times that I thought that this particular legal argument, it just didn't hold water, and when they argued it so spectacularly that the judge you just never know. You always want to hold out that this isn't happening, but again, you never know.
So what's going on with the gag order? Have they modified it?
They did modify it. Like some people think that they lessened it.
Right. The judge
like
saying that the gag order wasn't really a gag, or he didn't like the term gag order.
Well, it's a non-discrimination. You can't talk about. I mean, you're gagged. I mean, he's splitting hairs because he doesn't like a terminology. It is what it is.
Seemed a little wishy-washy to me, that judge.
Yeah. So we'll. I guess we'll see. Ruby, you haven't had a whole lot time to talk. Did you have anything to add?
No, not really. I mean, other than just that, you know, I've known, you know, about this whole genealogy testing stuff for quite a while, and that, you know, it's just a very controversial thing now that law enforcement is using it, and they're using it in current cases where, you know, like I was telling you about Colleen Fitzpatrick, she started it all because she started to solve crimes, to solve cold cases like Jane and John Doe cases, murder cases. The little boy that died on the Titanic, and they never knew who he was for 100 years. You know, she identified him, the Golden State Killer.
Wow.
For them to use it now in active investigations, it's been a controversial thing, and that's why they're wanting people who do it to check off a box that allows it to be put into a system or whatever, so that to help law enforcement.
Yeah, well, they can't.
That she'll have a problem with.
Yeah, they can't take the stuff out of their database. That's in accordance to that document I was just from the Department of Justice. They can't take stuff from the genealogy sites and plug it into their stuff. That's they can't do
Yeah.
that. But I do believe that if this is going to direct testimony or direct, pointing the finger at somebody, I think they should be required to have a subpoena. I'm sorry. That's just where
Yeah, they should have had a subpoena for whatever 23andMe type site had that DNA. They would have obviously had to subpoena that.
Yeah, and under the rules, basically all they're having to do is put it in CODIS. If CODIS doesn't generate a hit of any kind, then they can move to that next step, this genetic genealogy testing. But they have to make that CODIS attempt first. So, you do have rules, and they seem okay. It's just me being a liberty person, being a privacy person. I just feel like there needs to be more. I mean, you're talking about somebody's life. You're talking about identifying murder suspects. I just truly believe when you're using something that people weren't aware that law enforcement would be using, that it would be proper for them to have.
What if somebody stole a backpack with my clothing in it and then went and committed a murder and left DNA on that? And then I never reported it stolen because it's just a sweater. Mm-hmm. And then I get tied 20 years later to a murder that I have no idea anything about, but my DNA is on it.
Oh, I had on the wrong one. There we go. Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of different things that could, that this, I can foresee problems. And granted, the statistical anomalies of that actually happen, somebody stealing your clothes and committing, the chance of that happen. But it could, and that's the scary part about it.
Possible.
It could.
Yeah.
Ruby?
I know. I had a friend whose boyfriend committed a crime in her car.
Oh, wow.
And the police show up on her doorstep, kicking her door in, arresting her, and she's like, "What the hell?" She had no clue. But the on the genealogy testing stuff, when they did it for El Dorado Jane Doe, that lady out in Vegas did it, and I misspoke. I called her Yvonne. Her name is Yolanda, but her name is Yolanda, and she's the lady that Catherine Willows is modeled after from the show CSI. But when they did that on El Dorado Jane Doe, what she did was took El Dorado Jane Doe's DNA and put some kind of a code name on it. Mm-hmm. And entered it into this thing, and then they got that hit on that second cousin, and which they went and found on Facebook and contacted them and stuff, and it led to that big whole mess of finding out all of them's daddies had been cheating and had kids strung out all over the place, and it was a mess. But the way they did it was sneakily, kind of not really legal, but they got away with it, and, so yeah. But like I said, it's a controversial issue, and so, but the way they were able to determine and get confirmation on Bryan's DNA, the trash is fair game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's public property. It's fair game. So the prosecution really doesn't have anything to try and hide in the fact that they went through these people's public garbage and obtained DNA.
Yeah,
and that's how they did it. They can fight it all they want to, but I wouldn't have thought that they would have broken any laws. And they knew what they were doing.
Didn't Bryan's sister even suspect him and search his car?
Again, that's based upon that Dateline episode.
Yeah, that's
allegedly.
Here or there. There's a lot of misinformation coming out on mainstream media, especially with Banfield.
Yeah.
Oh, she's such an idiot.
Yeah, she's, you know, and we're
I
finding
Bryan-
out how many mistakes she's made, right? I
Bryan-
mean, we're now starting to be exposed to some of the horrible reporting from Camp Banfield.
I wish Bryan Enton would go out on his own.
I do too. I like Bryan. But you know what? I
Yeah.
really think Bryan's the one that's giving Poor News Nation a decent name, because Banfield and Como ain't doing it. Sorry.
You did a wonderful job.
Yeah, you might not want to get me and Betty started on Cuomo.
Oh God, Cuomo, the whole family.
You know us deplorables, how we are.
Yeah.
I'm a proud deplorable.
Me too.
What else we got, Betty?
But yeah, Ashley Banfield, she did a whole segment one day talking about some stuff and saying that she was getting it from sources close to the investigation. I'm like, I was talking about that a month ago on my channel. You know?
It was funny because, you know, just Samantha comes on here, and every time it seemed like the Banfield came out with something, just Samantha was on it, man. She knew exactly where she pulled that story from, and we went and looked at it, and it was like it was from an unsubstantiated source, somebody that you didn't know who they were, where they got the information, and Ashley's running with it as if it's true and corroborated.
Yeah.
That's the
She
crazy
did that
part.
with, I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, well, God, I was talking about that a month ago.
Yeah.
It's all about views for her.
You know, it's crazy because I was just talking to somebody the other day, and I was explaining to them because they're like, you know, because a lot of people, you know, are giving us a bad name, saying it's all about because that's what's.
One
that's
second, I
what's
gotta let my dog in real quick. Hold on.
Yeah, that's what's easy to roll off the tongue, is that you're in it for the clicks and the views. But when it comes to us, like, we have heart when it comes to these cases. The mainstream media, no, they're the ones in it for a click and a view. I mean, they go from one case to another case, you know?
Right.
And,
They're
you know,
fighting to be the first to break the news.
Yeah, and we're still trying to fight for answers on a case that they've already moved on from.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't moved on from the Idaho 4, but they're not talking about it as much as we are. They're talking about other cases. They're talking about, you know, they're moving on. They're only talking about stuff when it comes out. But that's it.
Right.
What do you think about that Chad Dormer, whatever the hell he is, killed his 3
Oh
kids?
gosh, I hope they stone him to death.
If there's a death penalty case alive ever, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
He's it upsets me because, and the reason why I think I'm emotionally attached to this case is because I feel duped by him. You know, the first time I saw him and learned of this case was when he was sitting in front of that judge, and his jaw was, you know, trembling, his lip was trembling. He was in that turtle suit. You know, he looked like he was just terrible. You know, I felt bad for him. Like, I'm watching him and I just truly feel bad for him. And then the very next day, I'm seeing the body cam footage of his arrest, and I'm like, you SOB, how dare you, you know, play with my emotions like this, you know? And so now I'm kind of in it, not because of the case itself, but because I felt duped. And, you know, I want to see this man seek justice, or you know, get justice. I want to see his sons seek justice and get justice. You know, and it's just,
I want to
so
see
sad.
that guy executed just like he executed those boys.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Those boys deserve so much better. They deserve so much better. And you know what, the most heartbreaking of all of that was hearing the mom in the background, you know, with the whole police.
You're taking my life.
What am I going to do? And my heart just sank. It was just hard. It's just hard. So much awful in this world. So much awful in this world. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Comes with the territory.
Yeah, because I'm gonna go ahead and close the. Hold on. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out, but I want everybody to go around and talk about whatever you guys can talk about, whatever you want, unlimited. Go ahead, Matt.
Talk about whatever I want.
Yeah, because
you're closing. You're going to be closing the stream now?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say I love you guys. I love the chat. And I love what you're doing, Betty. And it was really a pleasure to meet you down in Key West.
Oh, yes. And likewise. I keep telling everybody, I love your wife. Your wife is just this tiny little thing. I was expecting, I don't know. I guess she's just a tiny little thing. She's so cute.
She's a sweetheart.
She is. You guys were both great.
She's been helping me with this whole operation
well, you know, I got
thing.
this whole swelling thing going on this. Is why I keep grabbing the side of my face. And I'm realizing how swollen it is on this side, and I don't know why. So I'm probably gonna. I got to
better go to the dentist because you might have a what do you call it? An infection.
Cyst or something like that, or something. I don't know. They did that deep cleaning, and I'm noticing the side of my face is really.
When did you do the deep cleaning?
Huh?
When did you get the deep cleaning?
My gums.
When?
Just a week or so ago.
Oh yeah, that's gonna last for a while.
Yeah.
It'll be swollen and upset for 2 or 3 weeks,
Oh,
or even a month maybe.
Okay, well, I'll give it a.
Because when they do the deep cleaning, it's called root planing. Sometimes they call it root planing, deep cleaning. They go way below the gum line and they get all the crap out of there that's been there for years.
It hurt.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. It hurt.
That's why my wife takes me in and cleans my teeth, often. So I don't have to worry about, getting built up over the years like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Ruby, final thoughts?
I just wanted to say you're doing a great job keeping on top of these documents and stuff in the Bryan Kohberger case. And I was feeling bad for Kayla during the gun trial, Adam's gun trial. And now that I have read all the recently released documents in the Harmony Montgomery murder, I don't know what to think about Kayla.
I think she should be in prison right along with him.
We've all gotten involved with some bad dudes, but you start killing kids, and I'm out. I'm gone.
And not only that, but keeping your mouth shut, lying to
yeah.
I'm sorry, but I don't think she should. I mean, I know they needed her to get Adam, but I still just. I mean, how, as a female that had 2 other kids, how can
had her own 3 children
to a child?
Exactly. I would have took my kids and left that minute.
There's a lot of things I would have done that day, and I don't think leaving and taking the kids would have been one of them. Just me personally.
What do you think happened to Summer?
I mean, I would have left.
It's off the top of your head.
I definitely don't believe what Fred Hill's saying. I said nothing's going to explain Don and Candace's behavior after the daughter. I think Fred Hill is in a pickle. I think he's trying to wheel and deal something that he doesn't have any information on, because if he knew where Summer was, he would have told law enforcement when there was thousands of dollars to be had on a reward.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it was an accident. She had heat stroke in that car and they covered it up.
I keep wanting to believe that, but there's just something deep inside of me that says when we find out what happened, it's going to be something that none of us are really prepared to hear. I don't know where.
Probably so.
It's
a gut feeling
inside of me. I keep wanting to believe that this, she just got injured and the parents freaked out, but there's just something that's just been nagging at me for
You call
years.
911 if that happens, it's an accident. You
Exactly.
call 911.
Yeah.
If it's not an accident, then you cover it up.
No 911 call at all, except to report her missing.
Yeah, that's not okay.
So I don't know what to believe when it comes to that case, but I don't believe, unless it starts with Don or Candace, I don't believe any of it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Me either.
I think Candace and Grandis, or Candace at least, is the key.
Yeah. But I do believe her mother knows something. I believe they all know what happened. I believe every one of them in that household knows what happened. I believe those boys knew what happened. I believe somebody said something. There's some kind of event that happened about 6 months ago that stopped all contact with those boys. And I believe that something broke in the case because we heard, it's not there yet, but I have a feeling something broke in this case because they stopped communicating with those boys 6 months ago by force, not because they wanted to, but because the court stopped them from having communication with them. And then you've got this whole situation where Ronnie Lawson is saying, turning down an interview with News Nation stating that he's going to have an update soon.
I was going to say something. So now they're back in Arizona.
Arkansas.
Fairfield, Arkansas. So that's where they're from originally.
That's where they said they were when Rose Bly disappeared.
Interesting.
Just a thought.
That whole family, well, Don's son is now in jail for
that is just a
SA.
disgusting family. The whole family.
And he's going to be sentenced pretty quick here if he hasn't already been.
Yeah.
In Utah, I believe. Yeah, messed up family. You got to break the chain, people.
Yeah. I hope these boys, at least, I'm hoping at least two of the boys, the older boys is going to be hard because he's going to remember so much. But I'm hoping the younger two boys at least have, some kind of normalcy in their life moving forward. I hope that they just live life differently. I hope they truly can break the chains. I hope, that Summer wasn't in vain. I truly believe she's not here anymore. And, I just hope that whatever she went through wasn't in vain, that it gave her brothers an opportunity to live and live well. That's the only silver lining I can hope for.
Amen. That's a good closing note.
Yeah. Yep. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ruby, for coming up and hanging out with me. It was fun.
Yeah. I'll see you
All right.
soon.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
We don't do this is late night for me.
Yeah, it's only
I'm a rebel.
7 o'clock there, 6:55.
It is 6:55. I'm telling you, I'm a rebel without a cause. I'm going platinum. No, I'm done. Stop. Okay, guys. I love you. Have a great day. God bless.
All right.
I love you too. Good day, everybody.
Ruby.
Peace out. Bye, Mab.
All right, guys. So there it is. Sharks are swimming in the water, and this whole game that they're playing, this DNA game that they're playing, we're seeing it. We're watching it develop. It looks like they're trying to make that move to try to get that DNA evidence kicked out. We don't know. Is it going to? Is it not going to? Is this genealogy testing really what it is? And is it really that important to this case? Me personally, I don't think it is. But you know what? It's not for me to decide. It's for a judge to decide. All I can do is give you guys the information. And what we're talking about today is what information did LE rely on first? Was it the car? Was it the investigative genetic genealogy testing? Or was it plain dumb luck? I truly believe it was the car that tipped law enforcement off, that made them get the BOLO. The BOLO is what led Wazoo to check their database through a query. The officer went out to Bryan Kohberger's apartment, found the car in the wee hours of morning on November 29th, which kicked this off in identifying Bryan Kohberger initially. And that was we knew about the car. Was a white sedan on 11/18. They located the DNA on 11/20. They determined the car was in a white Elantra on 11/25. They asked area LE for the BOLO on the white Elantra. By the 29th, they had his name. What is being skewed from these reports is the lack of specificity on the time, the dates that they decided to initiate this genealogy testing. I have looked at all the states' responses. I have looked at the defense's and I cannot ascertain the date that they decided to do this genealogy testing. And I do believe that they're leaving those dates out on purpose. And we will start being able to put that timeline together once we get a few more pieces of data And then by 12:28, the DNA matched Bryan Kohberger's father from garbage that they were able to get from the Albrightsville house location. And that did test, that was again 12:28, and it tested 99.95% to the father, Michael Kohberger. And then an arrest warrant was issued. Bryan Kohberger was arrested on 12:30. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it the car or the IGG? I think it was the car. Let me know your thoughts. If you're on the replay crew, don't forget to put a comment in the comment chat below, the comment box below. And those that are here with me today, please consider putting a comment after this live ends. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for spending your time with me and getting some information. I hope it was beneficial to each and every one of you. Don't forget to consider subscribing to the Bullhorn Betty channel. If you'd like to know how you can help the Bullhorn Betty channel, consider becoming a member. God bless each and every one of you. Don't forget to be fearless. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And until next time, please be kind and safe.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.